All right, thank you, Todd. My name again is Tammy Galvis, and I have been accused of speaking too softly too many times, so I know I'm going to need this microphone, but I won't do a song and dance, although I feel like I want to do that with it in my hand. But Marcus, of course, is going to come up in a little bit and talk about budgeting. We're going to go through a couple of highlights between forecasting and then we've got an Excel spreadsheet that I think you've already been provided and that we'll go through a little bit here, kind of walk through how you can use that. But just starting out, how many of you go through a formal forecasting process at your cities? Okay, so just a couple. Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, but GFOA has issued a recommended practice that you do a forecasting, or you go through a forecasting exercise when you're doing your budget. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences here between forecasting and budgets. So with a forecast, the forecast is telling you where you're headed, where you're likely to go. It's going to be your financial radar that's going to use estimates and help you predict that path that you're on at your cities. You're going to update your forecast periodically, and typically you don't do any kind of variance analysis with your forecast. You're not going to go in and compare how you were tracking with your actual, because this again is just based on a broad range of estimates coming from historical data, could be peer information that you use to try and develop your forecast. So you typically don't do a lot of detailed inquiries looking into why you aren't on track with that forecast. You're just filling in the information and letting it develop for you. Whereas with a budget, you're actually using that to determine where you want to go. You've set a target and you're working towards that target by developing this budget. It's going to outline your intentions. You're typically preparing that once a year, but it's very important that you are doing variance analysis with your budget and actual throughout the year so that you can present budget amendments and communicate with both upstream and downstream at your organization if there are changes that need to be made into that budget so that educated decisions can be made by all involved. So again, you're going to be amending that as necessary. And we did have a client recently that we dealt with that did not do any kind of amendments throughout the year. We had gotten calls from the board where there was some unsettling information once the audit was finished because that were required in the audit. And so it's just important to keep that updated. If you know your revenues are not trending like you had thought they would throughout the year, then go ahead and do amendments so that the board can make educated decisions. The key point here on this slide is that budgets are going to be one of the most important documents of your municipality to reflect what is important to everyone. It's reflecting the direction that the board is intending in the community to take the community down. So if someone sees an increase in enforcement spending, they're going to realize that there's an increased view on safety at the city, and that's a key point there. Companies that are relocating to your organization are going to be using your budget to see where your money is going towards, where you have it directed. That's going to be important for them to see if they're trying to bring in new employees, things of that nature to your area. Bondholders, of course, are using your budget, or looking at your budget. But one thing that's very important is internal control. Your budget is a very important monitoring tool that's used in your internal control system. So doing those analyses throughout the year and checking against your actual to make sure that that's on track. If there's anything that looks out of whack, you're investigating that. Why is this expense too high? Things of that nature are going to be a good tool as well. Budgeting best practices. From the side that I'm on as an auditor, one of the most important budgeting best practices that I can tell you is communication. There's so many times that we'll come into a city and the board will have specifically asked us to look at something in particular because they're not sure about something that has been communicated in the budget, or we've had issues as well where we've had conversations with departments and departments may not be involved in the
technical issue. We'll just keep going here. But we've had issues where, or been called in before, where departments that have not been involved in the budgeting process will be submitting items for purchase, and they're being denied. And in this particular case, there was not that communication where they had been involved in the budget process to begin with. And so throughout the course of the year, they were submitting the information for things to be purchased. They were being denied those items by finance, and they didn't understand why. So they thought, oh, it was always controlled, this lady was always controlled, she wouldn't do anything. But so that communication in that regard is important. And then again, we've come in or been called into entities where the ending fund balance wasn't what the council had expected. And so, there may be a thought of fraud or something like that going on. We've had several engagements that we've been asked to do where we've come in to specifically look for fraud because the budget, the ending fund balance wasn't where they had expected. And it was unnecessary because basically what it was just a miscommunication between what they had originally approved in their budget. One of the things on the slide, you guys have the slides in front of you? Okay, I just want to make sure you guys did too. Okay. So if you have a copy of the slide, on that budget, that's correct slide. Okay. Yeah, so we're talking about using simple language. As an accountant, we're speaking a different language. And so many times when you come in, we had to explain what the balance is. It's not cash, as Todd was just talking about earlier. So finding ways that can be communicated to your governing board are important. Collaboration is just always important.
Yeah, but some of the things that we've gotten into before, we had one instance where the finance director was keeping the books on an accrual basis. And so in the fund, when they were purchasing capital outlay, she was putting it on balance sheet and not running any capital outlay through her income statement. And then she was reporting depreciation expense. And so and they had approved the budget, thinking, she's explained everything. They approved the budget that way, not realizing that. Then at the end of the year, well, throughout the year, I'm sorry, they had purchased a building. They had approved to purchase a building for several $100,000. And so when the reports that she was giving them at the end of the year internally reflected this much should be in fund balance, or this much was revenue over expenses. And then when the auditor came in, the fund balance was way down compared to what they had seen at the end of the year. And so they were scared that something had happened or anything on. And that was the issue, was that, yeah, they had approved the capital expenditure, this $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 item, but she was never showing it in their income statement, so they weren't seeing the activity throughout the year. And so that caused great concern there. But again, that communication, communicate with them so they understand what's happening. One thing too with fund balance, a lot of times, we have the budget actual statement in your audit report that will show your revenues as they were budgeted originally, final, and then the actual. And so a lot of times when we are coming in, we'll highlight the fact that, okay, you originally budgeted to spend this much of fund balance, and that's the revenue less the expense that was in that budget column, and they will understand that because it hasn't been communicated that they intended to use some fund balance. And so that's kind of an issue too at times. So just making sure that they're aware that the revenues coming in aren't equaling the expenses. It's got to come from somewhere, and it's coming from that fund balance. And we always try, when we present the audit, talk to them in terms of, okay, your unassigned fund balance represents this much of money, or not money, but this much that could cover operating costs for so many months, so that they have an idea of what the monthly cost of running the fund is, or what the city is.
Do you have a recommendation on how many months of reserves that you should keep?
Well, GFOA sets forth, I believe it's around 2 months, a minimum of 2 months, and there are factors there that they factor into that best practice. Is it 3? We typically will tell them at least 2 months when we're doing our presentation, though. Okay, and then the next thing that we have here is a spreadsheet that was created actually by the city of Alpharetta. Initially, it's one of the tools that they use, and it's been provided to you. It's one of the tools that they're using in their budgeting process, and then we've added a couple of tabs in here to help if you like with some graphing and some forecasting. Along the bottom, and this in particular spreadsheet is just relating to revenues. So there's a tab for each revenue source. And what they've got here is they've gone back in and captured, I believe it's 10 years of history. And so you'll see they've got by month, and this is a motor vehicle tax tab. They've got their monthly income over the course of the last 10 years. And then you can see over here, so this had ended up in February or March is what her typical cutoff is, I guess, whenever she's doing her budget. And so she's using this tool to then come down and try and estimate what the rest of her year is going to be. So if you've dropped your information in, and this has your actual, and then down at the bottom, you've got your budget. And it's going to feed into here. So her actual so far for the year was $256,000. And so she was saying, okay, well, I think for the rest of the year, the trend is that it's going to be going down around 20%. So the formula automatically works to forecast what the next couple of months are going to be. So overall, this is her new estimate of what her 2016 tax revenue is going to be. So again, you can use this as a template to drop your information in. All the links are already working. And then this could help you to kind of estimate out through the end of the year. And again, it looks like she's using it down here to kind of look at the next year when she's developing her budget. You know, she thinks in this instance that the revenue is going to be down around 30% for the year, so then she's using that to develop what her budget for that tax stream is for the next year. Then what we added, and again, there's a tab for every revenue stream that is imagined in there that you can drop in. But all the way over to the right, there is a tab for graph. That we're emailing to you guys have these unhidden. This one is hidden for some reason, but so there's going to be a tab in the worksheet that you've got that should say graph data, and so that is already pulling in information from all of the other tabs. So like you'll see where my cursor is there. We're starting with the property tax. So it's pulling in the annual revenue over the last 10 years for that revenue stream. And then what you can do to create similar graphs. This is not cooperating today. So to create the graphs like we have here, you first have to go to that graph data tab where all of your information is summarized. And then, for example, if we wanted to create a graph for motor vehicle revenue, what you have to do is highlight the year that you're wanting and the revenue stream that you're wanting. So I'll highlight those.
insert. All of this is always different a little bit. A line graph. I'm sorry, usually we have someone that's here that's driving while someone is talking.
You want me to hold this? Yes. Thank you. How many of you use graphs with your budget? Is it something you use? Good. How many of you would like to learn more about Excel and how to use graphs and how to manipulate all that information? We've been talking about having a class on Excel that would help with your budgeting process and your accounting process, and to have these neat tools that you could use to do things with that would help you in your job, as well as provide some information to your elected officials.
Okay, so we highlighted the row that has the years and then the rows for the motor vehicle tax to create the graph that we've got here. And then if you click on the graph and then right click, you can add a trend line. And you can tell it how many periods you want to go forward.
Here. Thank you. This version is different. So this could be very impressive for your elected officials when you're trying to put together your budget and to explain to them how you're doing things. They like to see pictures, don't you think? Doesn't it help you to see pictures usually when you have data to have to have not look through all the numbers? It helps a lot of times.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this version, but so when you click on that trend line, you can then there's a box that will pop up, and you can put how many periods you want to forecast out. And so then it will kind of track based on that historical data that you got entered, where it looks like you're headed. And the spreadsheet that's being emailed to you all has step-by-step instructions inserted into this spreadsheet. So it'll tell you exactly what to do. This doesn't here, but it does within the version that you should get. And then there's a link too that you can click on that'll take you to further instructions. But in addition to the fact that you can create these graphs that are always easier to look at and to communicate information with, there is also another thing that we've added here on the millage rate finder, and it's at the very beginning. And again, these are step-by-step instructions that are already in here. So for example, if you do your property tax base is $850 million, you want, let's just say you want your anticipated property tax revenue, you're trying to figure out what your millage rate needs to be. If you want your property tax to be around $7 million, these instructions will help you through that. And so you go through the what-if analysis, and if I can read how you do it on this one.
I think we uploaded the wrong spreadsheet, didn't we?
Yeah, I think so. This one has it, but
Okay.
it's just different. But at any rate, what you can do is if you follow these instructions that are in the spreadsheet, it allows you to then change the criteria, and it would calculate what your millage rate would need to be in order to get the revenue that you're looking at. So if you wanted to present to the council a recommendation or give them some scenarios, you can play with that, and it'll help you manipulate the numbers to get you different totals that you need. But again, I'm sorry about this confusion here, but the version that you will get has the actual instructions on there. And then I believe when they send that to you, they also give you 2 employees at our office that are very familiar with these spreadsheets and can work you through any questions that you have if you're having issues with Excel as you're working through it.